Hello, I'm Andrea, 35, and this is my story. I work at an advertising agency in Augustine, Florida. Parenthood wasn't my path. I wasn't ready, and looking back, I'm content with that choice. Things took a sharp turn after marriage. Honestly, if I could go back, I wouldn't have said I do. Within just 3 years, my marriage devolved into a repetitive routine. I regret the burden my choices have placed on my parents. They live with me here in Augustine, always supportive, but unaware of my personal battles. It's my fault. I was never good at understanding people's intentions. I saw kindness as genuine, not realizing there could be more beneath the surface. I still remember my first encounter with Kevin clearly. It was just another afternoon as I settled into my new job at the agency. The office buzzed with phone calls, keystrokes, and the low murmur of conversations. I had no idea that day would mark the start of something that would change me. As I navigated the maze of cubicles, I noticed Kevin, tall, wearing glasses, with an easy confidence about him. His friendly demeanor and genuine warmth seemed to draw people in effortlessly. We first crossed paths during a brainstorming session. "New here, right?" he asked with a welcoming smile. "Yeah, just started. The place is great. They even have a top-notch coffee maker," I replied. Kevin quickly filled me in on the office dynamics, the occasional chaos, meetings that often turned into endless, uninspiring lectures, and how the boss was pretty laid back despite it all. Curious about the office policies, I asked, "So, how many breaks are we allowed? I've got a bad back, so I'll need to take a few now and then." "You're in luck," Kevin said. "There are cozy spots around where you can stretch or change positions. Plus, the coffee machine's nearby." "Which cubicle are you at? It's always good to know your neighbors." "I'm in the first row, fourth seat from the left," I told him. As fate would have it, we ended up working closely together. We clicked, our ideas flowed seamlessly, and I was struck by his creativity. He had this ability to think outside the box that I admired. Soon, our connection extended beyond the office. We discovered shared interests, from indie music to exploring hidden gems in the city. As weeks passed, our camaraderie evolved into a genuine friendship. "Hey, I've got 4 tickets to a concert," Kevin said one day. "It's not too underground, just at a local cafe. One of my favorite indie artists is playing. The food's amazing, especially the pasta. And there's a discount with the tickets. Want to join?" "I'd love to," I agreed, joking, "but if it's boring, you're paying for everything." Our friendship deepened over time. We hung out without any expectations, just 2 people enjoying each other's company. But everything changed during an impromptu post-work gathering. Among the clinking glasses and laughter, we found ourselves in a private conversation, lost in each other's words. Time seemed to freeze as we opened up about our dreams, fears, and vulnerabilities. It was the first time I felt like someone truly saw the real me. Eventually, our friendship blossomed into something more. We danced around the line between friendship and romance, stealing moments of shared laughter and lingering glances. Slowly, we realized we were falling for each other. At first, everything felt like a dream, but as I got to know Kevin better, I noticed a troubling side. He was a total mama's boy. He'd speak to his mother in this babyish voice, completely changing his demeanor, whimpering, giggling like a little kid. It was unsettling. It made me question if I ever really knew him. He seemed to hide parts of himself, and I began to wonder what else he wasn't showing me. One day, after he ended a call with his mom, I couldn't help but ask about it. Was she mad at him? He looked nervous but explained she was just concerned about his well-being and work stress. Still, something felt off. I suggested we meet her, but he hesitated, making excuses about her health and her living situation in an old rental house. It made me wonder if he was hiding more than I realized. "We'll work it out," I offered. Maybe meeting her would help. When Kevin finally confessed his feelings for me, I was hit with a whirlwind of emotions, happiness, excitement, and doubt all wrapped into one. It happened over coffee at a cozy cafe. His hands trembled as he poured out his heart, saying the words I hadn't expected but somehow knew were coming. And yet, despite the butterflies, there was a nagging feeling I couldn't shake. I was amazed by how Kevin managed to balance 3 separate worlds and still wanted to merge me into both his personal life and family. He was even willing to take my last name, having lived with his mother in Sarasota. He made the move to my city after securing a job. His old apartment was too expensive, so he was eager to share a home with me. But despite this closeness, he never invited me to his mother's house. He said it was modest and that I wouldn't like it. I started to feel like he was deliberately keeping me hidden from her. I understand, love, I told him one day, but if we're going to get married and build a life together, we need to think about everything. Won't it be difficult for your mom? You live with her now. I get that, he replied, but I don't think it's the right place for us. I want you to be happy and comfortable. My parents won't mind, but are you okay if they visit sometimes? They worry I'll forget about them. I spend weekends with them when I can, but with work, I'm often exhausted and end up eating alone. He reassured me, it's fine, really, don't stress, but I'll try to spend more time with my mom too, especially when you're with your family. We're a team, right? We can handle anything if we work together. Our wedding wasn't extravagant or large, but it was full of emotions. Standing at the altar, staring into Kevin's eyes, I felt I had found my partner, my confidant, and my best friend, yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. He admired his mother secretly, but there was a side of him he kept from me. Sometimes, I wasn't sure which version of Kevin was real, the one I saw or the one he showed his mother. That night, we crossed a new threshold, evolving from colleagues to friends, and now, partners in marriage. But something unexpected happened. The shift was drastic. A flaw began to surface in our otherwise perfect relationship. I found myself grappling with a mix of simplicity and boredom. We had entered marriage full of dreams and expectations, but our days quickly settled into a routine, one that felt monotonous, almost lifeless. From the moment we made our vows, I had been committed to a love that I believed was mutual and unwavering, but we hadn't anticipated that reality would turn out to be so ordinary, so dull. The idealized version of our life together was far different from the day-to-day simplicity we found ourselves living. As Kevin prepared to move in with me, I spoke to my parents about the situation. "How's everything going with Kevin?" my mom asked. "It's good, but I feel like something's off," I admitted. "Kevin is talented, sweet, and kind. We have so much in common, and he's fantastic at work, but there's a strange side to him." Mom gave me a concerned look. "I've mentioned before that Kevin seems a bit unusual. He's sharp and attentive, but there's something in his eyes that feels unsettling. Plus, he's got these childlike behaviors that don't quite fit with everything else." "Let's hear her out before jumping to conclusions," Dad said. "Actually, Dad's not far off," I said. "Kevin has these 4 distinct personalities. When he's with me, he's relaxed, happy, and open, but when he's with his mom, it's like he becomes someone else." "So he's close to his mother?" Mom asked. "That's not unusual, especially since he's her only child and she's divorced. Have you met her yet?" I'd brought it up a few times, but Kevin was always unsure. He said his mom wasn't well and preferred to be alone, but that didn't make sense. Now that we were married, I expected him to want us to meet. It wasn't mandatory, but it felt like a basic courtesy. Then there was another thing. Kevin wanted to move in with us, bringing all his belongings. I felt uneasy about it. Was he using you? Why didn't he want you to move in with him? I didn't want to pressure you, but I needed to understand his reasons. As our marriage progressed, I noticed Kevin often turned to his mom for validation, seeking her approval over mine, even though I was his wife. At first, I chalked it up to their close bond, but over time, I realized there was more to it. His mother, Samantha, had always been a dominant force in his life. Raising him alone had created a deep sense of loyalty in him, and he felt compelled to prioritize her happiness, often at the expense of ours. Gradually, I realized I was playing second fiddle to Samantha in Kevin's life. Our decisions, whether it was the color of our living room walls or our vacation plans, always seemed to revolve around her preferences. I started feeling like an outsider in my own marriage, constantly overshadowed by her influence. Whenever I brought it up, both Kevin and Samantha brushed it off, framing their closeness as a sign of love. But to me, it felt like an unhealthy bond that was slowly pulling us apart. "Kevin, are we still planning our honeymoon in Turkey? I need to book the tickets. Your mom is okay, right?" "Yeah, she's fine. I took her to the doctor, and everything's stable." But over time, it became clear that Samantha didn't like me. Her subtle, manipulative efforts to drive a wedge between us intensified. At first, I thought it was typical mother-in-law behavior, something that would ease with time, but as the months passed, her actions became more pointed, more deliberate. She would often call Kevin and make underhanded comments about me, questioning my character, my ability to be a good wife. Her disapproval hung over our marriage like a dark cloud, and I could see how easily she influenced Kevin's thoughts. Samantha knew exactly how to manipulate Kevin, playing on his guilt and insecurities. Whenever we had disagreements, she would be in his ear, sowing seeds of doubt and discontent. Her subtle jabs created a toxic atmosphere that left me feeling isolated and helpless. No matter how hard I tried to keep things together, her constant meddling began to erode my confidence. I often questioned my own worth, wondering if I'd ever be able to break free from her grip on our marriage. One day, Samantha called Kevin's phone, and since he was in the bathroom, I answered. I introduced myself as his wife, hoping to open a dialogue and smooth things over, but before I could say much, Samantha accused me of coming between her and her son, suggesting that I had somehow manipulated him into choosing me over her. I calmly explained that Kevin made his own decisions, but she didn't believe me. Instead, she accused me of using material things and my looks to enchant him. No matter how much I tried to reason with her, the narrative was already set in her mind. It only deepened the divide between us. Later, I sat down with Kevin to address the situation. I care about your son, Samantha. I check on you both regularly. Please try to understand that. Samantha cut the conversation short with a dismissive sound, making it clear she wasn't interested in hearing me out. By then, it was obvious our planned trip to Turkey was off. My work intervened anyway, as I was suddenly assigned to a short business trip to Mexico. One of our partner agencies wanted to collaborate on a new marketing campaign, and I had to go. I apologized to Kevin for canceling our plans, but surprisingly, he seemed unfazed. It's fine, he said, just enjoy yourself and keep in touch. I couldn't shake the sadness I felt over our cancelled honeymoon, but Kevin's indifference left me feeling even more uneasy. Was he really okay with everything, or was he just masking his true feelings? I told Kevin I'd be back in a month. On the day of my departure, my parents came to see me off, but Kevin was nowhere to be found. When I called him, he said he'd taken his mother to the hospital for an emergency and apologized for missing my departure. I didn't press him for details. The trip to Mexico went smoothly, and although I video called Kevin frequently, he always seemed in a rush. At first, I assumed he was just busy, but after talking to my parents, I learned something unsettling. Kevin had moved into our home permanently after I left, but he barely interacted with my parents. They mentioned that he would offer brief greetings and then retreat to his space, bringing in various items like gaming equipment, a stereo, and a camera stand. Concerned, I asked if he was working, and they told me he left the house occasionally but always returned by dinner time, acting distant and disinterested. Thankful for their updates, I planned to confront him upon my return, but a few weeks before I was due back in Florida, things took an alarming turn. My mom called, her voice filled with panic and tears. Confused, I asked her to explain, and she shared a shocking story. Kevin had brought his mother to our home without warning and, after a dinner outing, locked my parents out. Forced to find refuge in a motel for the night, my parents were left feeling helpless and betrayed. I was furious, my heart pounded, and a mix of rage and disgust surged through me. Kevin had crossed a line, and I knew I had to act fast. Some neighbors, who were fond of my parents, wanted to help, but the police dismissed it as a civil issue, saying I had to be there in person. It took 5 days to secure a ticket, but I rushed home as soon as I could, arriving late at night. I remembered I had an extra key Kevin didn't know about. I called my neighbors, surprised that my parents hadn't already sought their help, and together we went to the house. When I opened the door, I was met with an infuriating sight: Kevin and his mother, casually sitting on the couch, laughing and watching TV as if nothing was wrong. Without hesitation, I stormed in, grabbed him by the collar, and let loose. I yelled at him, pulling at his hair in frustration, while one of the neighbors comforted his mother. The satisfaction of confronting him face to face was overwhelming. He deserved every bit of what was coming to him. Kevin tried to explain, weakly bringing up his sick mother and claiming that my parents didn't like him, but I wasn't having it. I called him out for what he was, a coward who thought he could kick my family out of our home and get away with it. I contacted the authorities, and they took Kevin and his mother in for questioning. As soon as they were gone, I wasted no time getting rid of his things, burning his gaming console, posters, and anything else that belonged to him. I had no sympathy left for him. The police later revealed that Kevin had secretly moved his mother into the house, providing her with everything she needed. I immediately began divorce proceedings and filed for damages, demanding monthly payments as compensation for his trespassing and violation of my property. He was told to return to Sarasota with his mother, as no one wanted him around anymore. Money wasn't the issue, it was the principle. Kevin had lied, manipulated, and ultimately shown his true colors. I tightened security around the house, installed cameras, and took every measure to ensure this never happened again. I also shifted my job to work from home so I could keep a closer eye on things until life settled down. Now, things are finally peaceful, my family is doing well, and we've rebuilt our sense of stability. This whole ordeal taught me a valuable lesson about trust and boundaries, and I'll never take those things for granted again. Life has moved on, and I've emerged from the experience stronger and more cautious than ever before.